We're in a garage because, as you can see, this is a rather large piece of artwork. My studio really is not built to take something this size, and it's nice and cool in here apart from anything else. So the painting, it's a huge history painting, really, a sort of pastiche of a sort of an 18th century history painting, and it involves the history of Northamptonshire, my home county. It involves Benjamin Franklin, who is just here. His ancestral home is my home village of Ecton in Northamptonshire, and Ben Franklin actually visited the village in 1758 because he came back to see where his ancestors had come from, and he actually visited the grave of Thomas Franklin, his uncle. And Thomas Franklin, like Ben, like his nephew, was an inventor and actually invented like an automatic chiming clock that is now housed in Ecton Church, which is shown just down here, not actually painted in yet, but will be, and Franklin's grave, Thomas Franklin's grave, will be just down here. Ben Franklin here is sitting on top of a huge snake, a huge rattlesnake. The reason he's doing that is because during the American Revolution there was a thing called the Gadsden flag, which was a hugely important emblem of the revolution, and it showed a rattlesnake, a coiled rattlesnake, with the emblem "Don't tread on me" emblazoned underneath, and Franklin had a hand in the design of that. In fact, the prototype for it appeared in one of his newspapers, and actually the illustration that went alongside it is thought to be the first political cartoon that appeared in an American newspaper. So from my point of view as a cartoonist, I think that's a very important thing. We also have the Great Seal of America here. Franklin was involved in the design of that, or at least involved with the committee that commissioned the design of the Great Seal. The point with it was that, unlike Britain, where we have sort of emblems that have grown up and evolved over many centuries, America was literally nation forging, and they needed emblems, kind of, off the peg emblems. They needed stuff ready made, and so they all had to go away and think about what they wanted for the national emblems, and so the bald eagle was chosen as sort of the symbol of America. Although Franklin was actually quite annoyed about that. He thought that the eagle was a cowardly bird, because if they're ever mobbed by other birds, they tend to just disappear. They don't hang around and defend themselves. So Franklin actually thought that the turkey would be a better emblem, which is why we're going to have down here a really grumpy looking turkey. He thought that because they were kind of they were the sort of animals that would defend their corner, if they were ever approached in a barnyard, they would be quite stroppy. He thought that was a better reflection of the American spirit. So moving on, down here we have a guy called Robert G. Heft. And Bob Heft, when he was 17, he designed what is now the definitive version of the Stars and Stripes, which is quite an achievement for a 17-year-old. He died a few years ago, but his best friend actually runs a funeral home and officiated at Bob's funeral. So he's very kindly offered maybe to come out to Grand Rapids and do a little bit of publicity for us, because he knew Bob better than anybody, really, because Bob didn't have any family. Standing next to Bob, we have, I'm hoping, the very recognisable figure of George Washington, America's first peacetime president. And he is pointing here, or will be pointing when I painted it in, to his family coat of arms, which is, funnily enough, consists of stars and stripes. And there is a theory that the Washington coat of arms actually influenced the design of the stars and stripes. And here, at the bottom, we have Solgrave Manor, which is Washington's ancestral home in Northamptonshire, and I think it was very important to put that in because it's such a significant part of Northamptonshire's history, and of course, this is where the Washingtons became a significant provincial family in England before they moved out to America. So it's very important to have Solgrave Manor in there. Up here, top right, we will have, when it's painted in, the moon. And one of the astronauts who in the late 60s and early 70s, of course, went to the moon and planted the Stars and Stripes on the surface of the moon. And because this painting is all about American emblems. Essential to have him there, I think. And finally, down here, bottom right, we have a lady called Betsy Ross, who I'm sure is very well known to Americans, but not necessarily as well known over here. Betsy, in the late 18th century, she was a seamstress, and she sewed a version of the Stars and Stripes that a prototype version that she presented to George Washington. So because she was a seamstress, that's why I have her down here, and she's sewing the motto, the A Pluribus Unum motto, that is a very important part of the Great Seal of America, and so that's why she's in there, and she's actually based loosely. I don't believe there's a contemporary image of Betsy Ross, so I'm very, very loosely basing her face on a portrait that I found of one of Hogarth's, William Hogarth's servants. He painted a beautiful painting. I think it was six of his servants for his own amusement, really, and so I'm basing her face very loosely on one of Hogarth's servants' faces. So that, in a nutshell, is my art prize painting.